about that production process. Did any of you in producing the games that you shared with us learn something significant? Do you feel like there was a good sort of lesson learned or best practices or maybe worst practices that you won't do again that you want to share with the audience? About the development process, the team dynamics, we've already started touching on production, but...
I'd be glad not to recreate that process again. It was
which aspect?
The process of finding the process. I mean, there's a process, every studio has their own process, but it's totally different depending on the project and the number of people. The process can get very difficult for, especially a large number of people, to communicate and to understand the design of the game. So we implemented the Scrum type strike team system where we have a strike team working on a vehicle, so that's an artist, a concept artist, a programmer. Everyone's involved to make that vehicle. It becomes their team, and there's a driver of that team. And
was the driver of that team part of the team or a separate
part of the team? Yeah, part of the team. So they're responsible for that part of the game, and you know, they get trackers that kind of, you know, they work together as teams. And then the hardest challenge was getting it, and still is the hardest challenge, is getting the teams to cross communicate. Even though we have APs and producer, you still want them to communicate even more. But it was a difficult process to get to that kind of, I mean, zillion tasks and spreading out over 60 people. We found that the strike teams were the best so far.
Well, it sounds like that.
But I don't want to come to that process again because it took us like 8 months.
It sounds like you had them. Calling it the project team a strike team is sort of funny. It's like they're bunkered in their cubicles, lobbying for each other. Yes, go ahead, Sandy.
Well, on that note, do any of you use project management methodologies like they do in the software industry?
I'm just going to repeat the question, which was about what are the software product methodologies, maybe more formal methodologies that some of you use? I mean, Frank just mentioned a sort of Scrum strike team process, which is a sort of a looser process. Anyone want to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. Fantasy War, 3 programmers. You know, they sit in the same room, they talk to each other. That's your software development methodology. You really only need this kind of one thing when you start having much larger teams.
We have a kind of an informal Scrum. And again, we are very small, and
how many people worked on the Winx game that you showed?
Well, because it was 2 SKUs, there was probably a total of 12 to 15 people. Winx DS is more about 10. There was an executive producer, myself, another producer, and leads who handled their staff. We may have been management heavy, but that's part of what we're trying to do. It was important for us to get the game done on time.
So what were some of the processes? To answer the question.
We do traditional things. We have weekly meetings. We do use Microsoft projects. I don't like Microsoft projects. I'm contractually obligated to use Microsoft projects, so I use Microsoft projects. We use a great service I recommend everybody called Basecamp. It's one of those web whatever things.
Who uses Basecamp, out of curiosity? Anybody? Raise your hand if you use Basecamp. That's very interesting. Okay.
That's all guys who work for me.
I just let my Basecamp subscription. We just weren't using it. We sort of geared up with it. I bought it. We rolled it out.
We kind of just started using it a while ago.
Yeah. For like 3 months, people stopped.
It's been really helpful because we have some people who work externally, and it's nice to have a web-based solution.
Yep.
And for those that don't know Basecamp, real quick, what is it?
Basecamp is project management on the web. So it gives you a message board, it gives you a place to put files. There's a free version which you can use for a subset of features, which I recommend trying out. If you're trying to do your own game and a couple of your friends work that, this is a great way for everyone to get on the same page. It also has write boards, which we don't use as much, mostly for messaging, and also has a calendar feature as well.
We actually use one called ACE Project during this Desert Combat thing because every 20 people were all remote, and ranging from high school kids to people that were professionals. It's any kind of project tool helps, right? Project does suck. I hate project, and we use project in Excel, but some of the online stuff is pretty cool. Definitely for your mouse too.
We use just our tools. We use the Mantis bug tracker, which is an open source that's great. And Subversion, other than that, it's just scheduled meetings, scheduled deadlines, and tons of IMing and emailing. And a producer who stays on top of it. Any
more lessons learned from production anyone wants to bring up?
Our production process involved things like mayors and policemen. You know what I mean? Like, it was a nightmare. I mean, we had to get like permits to you know, get like parade permits and stuff like that. And you know, debugging the real world is really, really hard. You know? It's super challenging. And I'm not a producer or project manager. I'm a game designer, and I kind of I sort of let a lot of that just wash over me gladly. But it can, you know, it's really super challenging. But we felt like we were kind of inventing a process that was half software development and half event design. And there are people that do, you know, we've actually worked with people that do event management. So we collaborated with professionals that manage things like concerts and stuff as part of the process.
Yeah, I'll mention one thing that I think we did with Fantasy Roar, which worked very well, which I can certainly recommend almost anyone to do, which is that all of the kind of unit stats, province stats, all the kind of data was in external text files, so we wouldn't have to recompile the thing every time we changed something, and we could test things very quickly.